Well, it's been a while. I think we're overdue quite a catch-up. So yes, welcome everyone. This is my new car. It's a Jaguar F-Type V6 S Roadster. It looks quite pink on camera, but it's a lot darker red in person. It's I want to say it's called Formula Red. There's Italian Racing Red, which is a darker red, which is not what this is. This is a much brighter red. V6S, so it has the twin pipes in the middle. If you didn't know, if you don't know F-types, if it's a square in the centre, it's the 2 litre turbo 4. Twin in the middle is the V6, and 4 is a V8. I'll talk you through it. So we've got 19-inch turbine wheels, red brake calipers, and we have white leather interior, which I'm very happy about. And of course, all F-types have an adjustable spoiler. So I've had the car now for about a month and a half, and I'm thoroughly enjoying ownership. I've done probably just under 1,000 miles in it, and we've done a few sort of peak district drives and country drives in it through Project Drive. So if you're interested in joining, hit the link in the description. But yeah, it's pretty fabulous, I must admit. I mean, it's very different to the M2, but I've got to say, I mean, I already prefer it to the M2, and I've only had it a month. I mean, it's just so cool. You feel so cool in it, and you don't get any negative attention. Like, I sort of used to get quite a lot of negative attention, especially from the police in the M2. You sort of just get unwelcome looks, I found in my experience. Not everyone, you know, found it cool. Some people found it annoying and unflattering with the loud exhaust and pops and bangs and stuff. Speaking of loud exhaust, having just said all that, the F-Type doesn't seem to get anything like as much bad attention. I suspect that's because it's a Jag. But this is the standard exhaust with the valve open, and it's unbelievably loud. Take a listen. Thought I'd bring you inside to get rid of the Derbyshire bird song, but yeah, it sounds fantastic. It sounds absolutely amazing. I think it sounds better than the BMW did with the exhaust. Then that's just a standard exhaust. The only thing I've done is pull the fuse to have the valve open, because this car didn't have the valved exhaust from factory. The elephant in the room is, why do I have this car at all? When I started this channel, I'd only just gotten the M2, and that was only just over a year ago. And you know, I haven't made videos in about 6 months or so. Sorry, I dropped the camera. I haven't made videos in about 6 months or so. The last video was showing some updates and some modifications I'd done to it, and how much I was enjoying it, and you know, etc., and all the plans I had with it to do trips and stuff, and what's happened since then. Well, after I made that video, I had the car for several more months after that with no faults at all, and then in the UK, if you're not from the UK, you won't know this, but in the UK we had a particularly bad winter, which caused an awful lot of potholes and things. Now, to just backtrack a little bit, I had a difficulty when it came to renewing the insurance on the car. I bought it partway through a previous insurance and upgraded to the M2 with absolutely no issues, and the cost to upgrade was actually very, very small. So I had no reason to question why the renewal would be any different. However, when we came to the renewal, it was a big issue, and as it was for a lot of people in the UK, we've had a very a difficult situation with insurance. There's been a seat change of how insurance has been done in the UK, and it's made it much more expensive, basically, to put it easily. So because of that, my insurance on the M2 increased by 180%, which made me look at different cars, to be honest, because even though I loved it, that's quite a large pill to try and swallow, especially when it's completely unexpected. But I didn't end up changing anything. I ended up paying the ridiculously increased cost and keeping the car. So that a situation like that kind of makes you think differently towards a car, even if you love it, because it's kind of hard to justify a cost increase like that. So it sort of soured my relationship with the M2. But anyway, I had it for several more months, completely issue free. We've had a really shit winter in the UK. It's May 4th when I'm filming this, and it's mild, but the weather is still pretty crap. I think we've had maybe 2 or 3 decent days this year. Genuinely, it's been really poor. But because it's been so poor, the roads in the UK have just failed, utterly failed. I've never known potholes in the UK in the 10 years I've been driving to be as bad as this. I was driving in the M2 around mid-January. I was going somewhere and I hit a particularly bad pothole at speed. It was very, very large. I didn't see it in time to be able to swerve. The wheel went down into the pothole, smashed back up, and it made a massive bang. But the car drove fine. The tyre didn't pop. The wheel was perfectly round. I had the wheels checked a few days later because I was suspected one of the tyres was losing air because the steering wheel, when the car was going straight, was now about 10 degrees off centre. And I thought, I've got a puncture or something. I've got a slow puncture or something from that pothole. Took it to just a general garage and checked the wheels and tyres, and there was no puncture, and there was no damage to the wheels, no obvious damage to the suspension. So I thought, okay, it must be a tie rod end is bent or something. That's shit. It's going to cost me a bit of money, but could happen in any car. But the car drove completely fine and safely. It was just slightly off centre, the steering, when you were driving straight. So I left it knowing I had my MOT coming up. So I left that. The car went for its MOT, and I'll put some pictures up. Car went for its MOT, and I won't name the garage as it was a freak accident. It wasn't their fault. Sorry, it was their fault, but it wasn't. It wasn't a deliberate act. So I'm not going to name the garage. But I booked it in with a garage for an MOT and an alignment. They had it in for an inspection, found out what the fault was. It was actually there's a, I don't know what the word is, but it's like a spherical style tightening bolt on the rear suspension arms on the M2. And that had failed. Effectively, the tightening washer had basically failed. It was structurally sound, but because that had failed, it was, this was the cause of the pothole. Or rather the impact of the pothole. It failed the structure of the washer, so it couldn't be rotated to be corrected, basically. So I had a quote to get that replaced, booked in the following week, dropped the car off with them. They're going to have it for 2 days. Dropped it off. It's a reputable garage. They did the work, and then they were taking it to another garage just down the road, which was a body shop, to do an alignment, because they didn't have a 4-wheel laser alignment on site at the first garage. Sorry. So I went there with my permission, but I didn't know where this garage was. I didn't know who this garage was, I should say, the second garage. But they did have my permission to take it somewhere else to do the alignment. I was aware of that. So the second garage did the alignment. Kept it overnight. I was going to do the alignment the next day. And they did so, and they did the alignment, and the car was supposed to be driven back to the original garage to do an MOT in the afternoon. And it never actually got there. So the second garage took it on a test drive. They deemed it necessary to do a test drive for an alignment. I personally don't think that's necessary at all, especially when the machine will give you the readout if it's corrected or not. And so that was an issue, but I wasn't aware that they'd taken it on a test drive. I was just aware that they were taking it back to the original garage. So on that test drive, it was very clearly a joyride. They, whoever the employee was, I never got a name, they took it for quite a nice spin. And I don't know how far they were out in it, but it was for some time. It was well over an hour. And then I've seen some Ring doorbell footage of the accident he managed to get the car in. He came down a 30-mile-an-hour road. The footage looks like, as an estimate, I'd say at least 90 to 100. Managed to spin the car completely 180 degrees around from the other side of the road. So he spun completely all the way around and hit a house wall. And a massive speed and smashed the car into the curb, obviously, in the process, and also hit another car coming down the hill with the rear of my car, even though he was going the other way, if that makes sense. So it's a big accident. Thankfully, the people in the other car weren't injured. As far as I know, the driver of my car was injured. I've never been told otherwise, so I've no reason to suspect he was injured. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have learned. The house has been repaired. The garage's insurance obviously covered the accident, of course. It was under their care and their responsibility, and it was obviously their employee driving it. As far as I know, the driver, there was a police presence on the accident site, so as far as I know, the driver will be prosecuted to some extent for dangerous driving. But I've got no part in that, so I have no idea how far that will get. But basically, my car was effectively stolen and destroyed. I found out through the My BMW app telling me my tyre pressure was low, which I thought was very suspicious. But yeah, my M2 was crashed and destroyed. So after a few weeks of a lot of stressful back and forth with insurance companies, I got a nice payout which covered the payment on the car, and I was effectively starting fresh. So why did I get the F-Type? So I was in a position to go and get a new car. Also, I wasn't expecting to get a new car anytime soon because I was quite happy with the M2, and I just paid out all my money for the insurance. But when I first looked at the M2, what I really wanted was an F-Type, to be honest. This is a car that I've wanted since it was released. I first started working in 2014, and my wallpaper at the time on my PC at work was a white F-Type R Coupe. I love the F-Type, always have. I'm kind of obsessed with it. I've had models of it for years. It's always been a bit of a dream car, and I love all the models, the V8 and the V6. So I started looking at an F-Type, thinking, is it realistic? Could I make that jump? The finance market is a little bit better than it was last year when I bought the M2, so it's not quite as steep as I thought maybe it would be. So I looked at an original V8S, which was really nice, but the insurance was quite a lot for that. As you'd expect, 5-litre V8, and obviously quite valuable. And I know V8 owners are going to hate me for saying this, but it was properly leery. Even just tickling it at low speed on a test drive, it felt really leery. It felt like the M2, but with 200 more horsepower, and the M2 felt quite leery at times, to be honest. So I wasn't put off by that at all, because it has a character of its own, like, the sort of danger and the thrill of it. But I thought I'd look at a V6. Clarkson rates the V6 over the V8 as what is the one to have. I know a lot of journalists do. Steve Sutcliffe, for example, Autocar, said the V6 is the one to have rather than the V8. And I know the V8 was fixed as such by giving it four-wheel drive, but the four-wheel drive ones are newer and way out of my price range. So I thought, I'll go and look at a V6. And I went to look at a grey one. Grey Roadster. I wanted a Roadster because I love having the roof off. I used to have an MX-5. I had the roof off all the time. And I've missed that. So definitely a Roadster, although I like the coupe as well. Definitely a Roadster. Went to look at a grey V6S Roadster. It was really, really nice, but was sold by the time I actually got there. But I saw it on a Friday evening on Auto Trader, and by Saturday morning it had sold. So that was a pain. But I walked into the dealership to see the grey one. He told me it was sold, and then he said, "But I've just taken this one in on part exchange. It's not on Auto Trader yet. Got the details for the car, and it's even better, because I didn't even want a grey one. I was only going to look. I wanted a red one, and this one's red. So it was kind of perfect. I walked in and found the perfect car from a very reputable car dealership. So got the numbers. I just needed to sort some stuff with the insurance, and when it settled about a week and a half later, I went and got it. And easy as that. And even though it was a really bad situation with the M2, it's worked out really well in the end, because I've gotten it's slightly older than the M2, but it's sort of fresher. It's done less miles. It's had less owners, and it's the car I kind of wanted anyway, to be honest. Originally, when I first started looking at the Mazda replacement, so it's all worked out in the end. But yeah, so that's why there's been virtually no content on the channel. I did shoot a video, I think around September, but it just wasn't very good, so I didn't release it. Just about a drive I went on, but yeah, the M2 being destroyed and the fact that the weather in the UK has been absolutely terrible for months on end, and I've also been busy. So, but with that said, I said this when around this time last year, but there are events I will be going to, and I will be taking the F-Type too. I have a road trip in June that the F-Type is now going on rather than the M2, of course. I've just done a trip around the peaks 2 weekends ago, or 1 weekend ago, which we had 10 cars come on through my business Project Drive. There will be a video on the Project Drive channel about that, so look out for that. It won't be on this channel, but it will be on there. So if there is some me content going out. We're doing another drive in the peaks in May, which there'll be probably some footage of as well, and that'll probably be another video on Project Drive. There will be some general car shows I'll be attending, which they'll see videos on this channel for. And obviously the June trip, there'll be a Project Drive video and some vlogs on this channel of the trip. And there is a car show in August that we are doing through Project Drive at the Casa Hotel in Chesterfield, so please come down to that. It'll be a cars and coffee style car show, not a trader event kind of thing, but yeah, please come down to that, and there will be a video of that obviously on Project Drive, and obviously just spec general car videos. Speaking of general car videos, unlike the M2, I don't think this car kind of lends itself to modification, to be honest. People do mod them, don't get me wrong, and there's nothing wrong with that, but personally I don't see myself modifying this. The M2, it sort of warranted it in a strange way. It made me want to do it. I wanted to change the wheels, I wanted to put springs on it, you know, etc. This, I don't know, it just doesn't. I just like it just kind of how it is. I think it's just great. The only thing I may do is lower it, because it's surprisingly tall in the arches to say it's a Roadster. But I could also maybe just not. I'm quite happy with how it is. It's kind of perfect. But you will see videos of what it's like to live with an F-Type. As I say, this is quite an early car, but it is absolutely mechanically perfect. There's literally nothing wrong with it. I think Jaguar, even more so than Alfa Romeo, Jaguar has a terrible reputation for reliability, and it is completely non-founded. I've had family members who have had Jags, and every single one of them has been absolutely perfect. So, and I have no reason to suspect this car will be any different. It's absolutely perfect. So, but yeah, subscribe. We've got some more videos coming soon. Hope you like the new car, and apologies for the long gap in the updates. But yeah, welcome to my new car, my Jaguar F-Type.